world, I'm coming at you with a movie review. So if you're new to my channel, you wouldn't know that I've never done this before, but I'm a film major and I love movies and I watch movies all the time, and I'm going to try and relay to you all the information that I've got. So I wasn't taking notes while I was watching the movie. Well, actually, I think I'll start there. So, while a lot of people consider it an episode of Black Mirror, a lot of people also consider it a Netflix special. But what you might not know is that Bandersnatch was born because Netflix approached the two creators of Black Mirror and said, hey, I really think it would be awesome to do like a sort of interactive, choose your own adventure Black Mirror episode. So a lot of the creators view it as a sort of video game mixed with movie. It's up to anyone's interpretation. I think it's a choose your own adventure film. In the making of the episode, Brooker, one of the creators of Black Mirror, said it would literally crash, referring to when they were putting all the pieces together with all of the footage, like that all of the different options would literally crash, and I think that tells a lot, and it actually influenced a large part of my viewing experience for Black Mirror and the roads that I took. So also there are spoilers. If you're watching this and you haven't watched it yet, I beg you to. Also, the paths that I took may have been different than those that you have taken. So bear that in mind in case you want to go back and see it all for the first time through your eyes and not through mine. That's totally understandable because I will be going into that so there are 8 variants of one part of the story, depending on which music you chose when you were on the bus. So there's a lot of different paths. Like the time in Bandersnatch is not linear at all, and I think that was clear if you at least tried to go back once or twice. I personally did not exhaust all options, as I know some people have, and I know that when you do that, so if you exhaust all your options and you go through everything, basically it ends and credits roll on screen, which is not something that happened to me, so that's how I know that I didn't do that, because also I didn't do that. Enough of all that stuff. I actually really want to talk about why I think this was so good. While this definitely, I feel like some movies I watch and I'm like, oh my god, automatically, that's my favorite, blah, blah, blah. I honestly don't even really think this is my favorite episode of Black Mirror, but it was really good, and it was incredibly groundbreaking, and I know we're gonna see a lot more things like this very shortly, and here's why. So, first of all, this takes place in the 80s. Right now, people are kind of all over the 80s. Whether it be movies, television, books, video games, everything right now is very 80s style, including fashion and, I don't know, music, all of it, you know? We're in reboot season, and we've been rebooting a lot of things, from the 80s, 90s era. I don't know, I loved Ready Player One. Ready Player One came out in 2018, and it's basically just a bunch of 80s references. Also, we've seen a lot of 80s, especially in Stranger Things, and Stranger Things was, without talking about the second season, inarguably a milestone, I feel like, in Netflix history, as well as, honestly, in my own. I watched it while I was in high school, and even though I never grew up in the 80s, as I'm 19 years old right now, I really, really enjoyed it, and that vintage retro feel is a big part of why it was so successful. And I think it was really smart for Black Mirror to do something like this, especially because Black Mirror episodes are basically take place in the near dystopian future, but awfully near, not far in advance like we've seen most commonplace in the past. Also, this whole dimension, parallel universe, conspiracy theory, aspect of the episode is a huge part of culture right now. You can't go up to a teenager and they wouldn't know what the Mandela effect was, you know? And I just started watching Rick and Morty, another really successful show, which like, it revolves around the fact that there are all different dimensions. This, again, all goes back to the 80s when we basically first saw this in Back to the Future. You know, when Doc takes that whiteboard and, like, he draws the line and is like, this is what's happening. Like, that's what we're getting right now, and we're all over it. Bandersnatch specifically takes place in 1984. If you hear 1984 and you don't immediately think of the novel, I don't know what to tell you. But as soon as I saw that, I knew that there was going to be some sort of aspect of meta-ness. The fact I knew that the main character would think that we are watching him, which is exactly what happened, at least in the path that I took. 1984 is a novel, and the biggest line from that is that Big Brother is watching you. If you don't know anything about 1984, at least take that with you and know that it's all about how the government basically runs everything. And that was a big part of Bandersnatch to me. I feel like, at least with the paths that I took, he was slowly realizing that, you know, like, that free will is, like, not a thing, and that someone is choosing his decisions for him. Another big part of Bandersnatch is that we thought that we knew who we could trust. I feel like we immediately, obviously, trusted the main character, Stefan, because we were with him throughout the entire process, the entire episode. We're with him. We're not ever seeing things that he doesn't really see. So we're experiencing things as he is. With that, all of a sudden, all of our trust is given to him, and all of the trust he gives other people, that also is what we do. So immediately we see this father figure, and though we are slightly off-put by the close-ups on the locking of the door and the cigarette disposal, the ashtray, that is his father, and I feel like he trusts him to a certain degree in the beginning of the film, at least, and so we can as well. Unfortunately, within my paths, as the research I've done on the show, almost every path ends with him killing his father. And I tried so hard for him to make the right decisions. Like, every time he was supposed to take his pills, like, I wanted him to take his pills. Every time it said, like, kill dad or do something else, I was like, don't kill your father. And all the times that it was, like, destroy computer or, like, bang fist, I was always like, bang fist, you know? I wanted to see things go well for this character because I was the character, because I was closely identifying with the character. This happens in almost every film, and I'm not sure that you did the same thing, but I think it's likely that you wanted to see success for this character. So one of the first big decisions that you made, or that I made anyway, at least, was I wanted him to work for the company, or with the company at the studio, as they asked him to. And then we saw that, you know, his game didn't do that well, so that's when this whole film takes flight, sort of. You see him going through all these, like, breakdowns, and honestly, I can't even remember exactly what happened and in what order, because I've tried to fix my mistakes, and basically it just kept saying, kill your father, and eventually I had to pick it. So at some point, he buys a book about the guy that wrote Bandersnatch, the book that he is writing the video game code for. This book, he found it in a box of his mother's belongings. I feel like that's a really important part, that his mother is basically what he revolves around. Like, the decisions he makes, they're basically, like, for his mom, because he feels guilty that, that he, like, made his mother late so that the train that she took was the one that derailed. He also, though, puts a lot of the guilt, puts a lot of the blame on his father, because his father was the one that didn't want him to have the toy. And then I didn't figure out till later, because Okay, wait, I'm going all over the place, I apologize. The book about the author of the book, so they found out that he was a killer, that he, in writing the book, Bandersnatch, he like lost it because of all the different ends, and he thought that all of his decisions were being made for him, just as our character did. Then, prophecy would be that our killer kills someone and the video game is released and blah blah blah. That's what is supposed to happen then. So he reads this book and then he finishes the game and then he goes to the studio on the day that it's due and he's like, here it is, but then something crashes and we realize that Colin, that, you know, really cool video game guy, is not there, and he leaves for him a tape which basically has all of this information on it about the killer, the author of Bandersnatch. While he is listening to this, our main character, Stefan, is looking at all of his work for this video game and is realizing that he's going insane, that someone is making his decisions for him just as the author of Bandersnatch. So then he's like, someone send me a sign, and you can pick either between Netflix or that symbol that was kind of like this and then this, which also, by the way, kind of bears resemblance to Atari in a way. Anyway, this is gonna be so annoying to edit, you know? For the first time, I picked Netflix because I was like, you know, and then that didn't work. He couldn't explain that, and then he goes to his therapist, and you're faced with either jumping out the window or fighting your therapist, and I chose fight the therapist because I just didn't want to see him die, you know, because that's us. It didn't work out, you know, so then I have him pick the other thing, and he realizes all of the things that we realize, and eventually he picks up this other book that we've been seeing a little bit throughout the film. I never thought of that it was what it was, until it occurred. So I honestly didn't see this one coming. So he picks up the book that I think it's called, I don't know, I think it says something about locked door, get the key. So he gets the key out of his dad's pants and unlocks the door to the room that is locked usually. And he gets to this computery system where, in our case, he can either put in a password for PAC or toy. I wanted to do toy because I'm sentimental and I wanted him to get the toy so that his mother wouldn't be late, but of course we know that didn't happen. So his dad took his toy, which we see in a flashback in which he goes into the mirror because Colin tells him that you can go into mirrors and see the past. So he gets a toy, but his mother is still late, and you can either choose between getting on the train with the mom that you know is going to derail and both of them die, or you could not go. I chose to not go, obviously, because I wanted him to live and be happy. It's that he realizes that his bedroom like took place. It was like a movie set that was all directed by his father. When that doesn't work out, eventually I'm faced with the computer system again. I can put in PAC or toy. I chose PAC this time. So then what he finds, his father was like some sort of government agent, which is being sprinkled throughout the story. We keep hearing that like Colin is saying that government agents are are the people that we think we know. So Stefan sees that his dad has this like locked collection called PAC, which we heard about earlier in the film, Pac-Man, etc. That there are these vials that his father is probably giving him, which make him insane, and there's these videotapes of him at his therapist. So we know that his father isn't all he's cracked up to be, which makes sense because we saw throughout the film that we trusted him, but something was off. And this made me feel like it was okay for him to kill his father the next time it was presented to me. But before that, there was, when he's faced with his computer screen and he was to pick Netflix or that little symbol, instead of Netflix, it says P-A-C-S. So I clicked that, obviously, because, like, you know, that's new. And it comes up on screen and it says, "This is a study." And then it goes white, and then he sees his father, and then he kills his father and he buries him. And the dog from, you know, the neighboring dog is digging at where he buried him, and, like, obviously we know it's all done. But what's crazy is that the father is the one from the beginning that was telling the dog not to do that. What they did a great job with on this episode is that even though you could have gone through so many different ways, everything comes back. Like, everything was a little bit of a twist that you didn't realize before, which is so common in regular films. Like, you're presented with something, but you don't understand its power until the end, or foreshadowing. And it's crazy that they were able to do this when there were so many paths taken, and that's why this was so good, because everything came full circle. In the end that I got, Stefan was in jail, and his video game still gets a 2.5 rating. I have never watched it where his video game gets a good rating. So I don't know if that's a thing ever. I think that it is, but not in mine. So the takeaway is from that is that even their smallest decisions, like cereal or music, affect things later. Or is it that all of your decisions, no matter how big or small, nothing matters? Because there are so many different dimensions that you could throw yourself over that terrace and there are still other yous, you know, completing your tasks and fulfilling your goals that you wanted to. So whichever takeaway you choose, one is grim, one is hopeful. You get to decide. And just some more stuff I wanted to talk about. The character to me was similar to the main character in Shut Up and Dance, both teenage boys, you know, I don't know, with secrets, so like that are kind of a little bit crazy and like awkward and shy, and that's what led me to believe that we couldn't fully trust what we were watching. Another reason that I thought that this was so good is because all of those like choices that you can make kind of felt to me very nostalgic in the way that I used to read like J14 magazines and take the quizzes in them. And then if I like didn't get what I wanted, I would like go back and like change it. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to leave you guys with is just some facts that I read in articles that the system, Netflix, it remembers your past decisions, and that influences what you see throughout the episodes, which is how the episode is able to show you things and then have it make sense and matter, which I was always curious about why they were showing us the ashtray, and it's because in the end I think he kills his dad with the ashtray. Also, the creators of Black Mirror were thinking about doing alternate endings for both the episodes Playtest and White Bear, but then they just never implemented it. Like, for Playtest, they wanted to do like a nightmarish ending, so if you watched it for the second time, it would change the ending, and they just really wanted to see like what people would do when they realized that the ending wasn't the same as they've seen it in the past, which I think is a crazy idea. I think that would be really, really awesome, because you're really toying with people then. So, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see me do more things like this, please let me know, because I really would love to do them. And if you have any recommendations or anything you want me to review or theorize about, as I have and I've shared with you, please let me know, because that's the dream. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Bye, world.
I took a drive in the middle of the night. The first time I've done that without you by my side.